host, make me the host.
Okay, so it's preparing to live stream the meeting. Okay, so I am, okay, so I'm going to, all right, I have mute. I'm going to come back to the Zoom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'll make you the host again.
Yes. Now everyone's going to show up before 2 o'clock, right? So
that's right. Yeah, one of my guests are already in.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. Okay. So these are, so my panelists is Tam and Jam. That's Tammy. Nice, Tam. So Tam, you can unmute yourself.
And Darlene's also here.
Okay, so Darlene is not going to show herself. She's a guest.
Okay.
So Tammy, only the panelists will show themselves.
Okay.
Hola.
Ah, there you are, Tam.
How's it going?
All right. Tam, you on time, Tam.
Oh.
Okay, so okay. Let's see, get water. Okay.
That was our Friday night screen name, so I had to change it.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, there we go. Tammy Holman, so professional. Okay, and so I'm also looking, so okay.
Okay, now I gotta figure out why it's doing that. Because on YouTube Lab, it's only showing one person. It's not showing both of you.
So Tammy, how it goes, all the panelists will show themselves. I have a few people just as guests coming in, so they'll be muted and off screen. So we'll just see names.
Okay.
We'll just see the panelists. Nice fishies.
Oh, yeah. A little water change about to go on.
It's not Cuff and Link, is it?
No. A disc and just other fish.
Okay.
Mainly should be discus, but they have to be replaced. Obviously have to be replaced.
Okay. So I will take myself off of, I'll put myself on gallery view. Okay. All right. Okay. So an NCAA collegiate women's basketball official. That's your title.
One of many hats.
I know that's right, Tim. I had to remember that I'm Ozanam Inc. today.
Oh yeah, I like one of many hats. Yeah. Yes. I could be that today.
Good. Okay. That's who you are today, Tim.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay, good. That is important. All right. Okay, 150. Okay, so Tammy, when I finish introducing you all, I'm going to have you all say a little bit about yourselves in that order that I had wrote to you guys, but I'll prompt you. So I'll say beginning with Tammy Holman.
Okay.
Okay. I'll say beginning with Tammy Holman, followed by Phyllis Jones. That way she knows she's next.
Okay.
Okay. Then I'll prompt the rest of the group. And then you can just tell us. You can just tell us about yourself.
Okay.
Briefly.
I will keep it brief.
I mean, give us the good stuff. Leave out the stuff that I know.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, this text. Okay, Edna, good. Okay. Hi, Edna Campbell.
Hello, Karen.
All right, so nice to hear your voice. And you remember Tammy Holman, don't you?
I gotta see a face.
She's on here.
Okay, hello, Tammy.
She's on mute.
Okay.
Okay, so for our panelists, this is what I'm asking our panelists, is to show yourselves, because I have a few guests who will only be on mute, and we'll see their picture or name.
Okay. I will be back in about less than 5 minutes, Karen.
Beautiful.
I just want to log on.
Beautiful.
Were y'all able to?
Yeah, we heard it, but turn it down just a tad.
Okay.
Okay, so you might want to play it a little bit, because when it comes on, it sounds like a flush. Because it's only be like less than a minute of that played anyway. But
Will you be talking over that?
Say again?
Will you be talking over that?
No. When the music stops, I'm starting.
Okay.
And Eric, can you watch the chat in case there are questions? I'll watch it also. But if there's questions, and if we didn't see it, say, Dr. Hall, there's a question in the chat, please.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. Yes, that sounds good. Did we get YouTube going, or how's that work?
That's why I'm checking YouTube to see how stuff sounds. Yes.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay, we got it muted. Yes, that sounds good. Coach Jones, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Much better now I see your friendly face.
I was in the process when you text me.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah.
You remember Tammy Holman, don't you?
Oh, I do. Hello.
Yeah, how you doing?
All right, how are you?
Good seeing you.
You as well. Yes.
So I'll repeat it again, but so it's conversational. So I have this spiel to go through first. And then the first question is going to talk about how sports influence your greatness. And each person will start with that one. And it doesn't matter, right? So I want it to be natural. Oh, JB. Hi, JB.
Oh, whoa, legend! How are you?
I'm good. So JB, for the purpose of our Zoom, so that I can don't have to find my guests. So I'm asking all of our visitors to put your name on your screen, and then or your beautiful picture, and then just so we can see your name. That way I don't lose the guest.
All right. Well, I can definitely do that.
Well, you can,
Dr. Hall. I could definitely do that, Dr. Hall. No
Thank
problem.
you, James. Thank you, James. Coach Jones, you remember Edna, right?
Oh yeah. Who could
Hello,
forget
how
Edna?
you doing, Coach Jones?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to be flexible because I know everybody has a schedule, but I will like to stay as best on time. 2:00, 2:00. Some things have changed, some things have stayed the same. Yeah, so, and this is again conversational. please, once I get through the spiel and once we start talking, my questions aren't really written, right? I only have a few just to get us going. But it really, if you all hear things, just, kind of jump in and just all conversational, right? So we're at the, good. So we have Shauna, the only guest to come in. I'm getting really excited, even more excited now. All right. So I will, not really want to prompt you, but shake your head if you know when Title IX was made a federal law. If you don't, I'll text it to you because that's a poll question.
Oh, okay.
1970, 71?
Yeah.
Two.
Two, yeah,
72,
71,
okay.
72, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, we want to make sure that looks right. Okay. All right. And then let's see, Shauna. Hi, Shauna.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for coming in.
Have
All right. I have the panel. So, Amy. Hello, Amy.
Hello, how are
All
you?
right. I'm so excited. I got to maintain my point guard composure here. Okay, so let me make some introductions here. So Edna, Tammy, and Coach Jones, they all know know one another. So please meet Amy Schuneman, who's in charge of the WPIL. She's executive director, and then Shauna Brown, who's the associate commissioner at the Conference USA. So please say hello to one another.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good. And so just to remind you, conversational, I have this big spiel that I'm going to get through, right? After that, I'm going to follow the order of introducing you. And then after I say, welcome, ladies, I'll throw it back to Tammy and I'll say, followed by Phyllis, Coach Jones, okay? And then if you don't remember, I'll just say, Amy, take it away. I'll cue you if you don't remember. So it's just flexible. We're going to enjoy ourselves. And then I have, I'm just going to remind our guests who are with us, they will mute themselves and put a picture up or their name so that only the panel is showing. But I want to remind them that they could put a question in the chat, should they have one. And then I'm going to bring it back and have, then I'm going to bring it back to myself and just define what National Girls and Women in Sports Day is, right? And then I have a quote. And then we get into the first question is, how has sports influenced your greatness? Okay, that's the first question that I'll ask for everyone. All right, so it is 1:59. I should be hearing some music. Eric, can we hear some music? Okay. The ball is you're running for your life. You're a shooting star, and all the years, no one knows just how hard you work. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Dr. Karen Hall, Assistant Executive Director of Ozanam, Inc., and your host for this celebration of the 35th National Girls and Women in Sports Day, a leadership conversation. Shortly, you will meet our powerhouse panelists of 5 amazing women representing various positions within the sports industry. Before we begin our leadership conversation, let me tell you a little about Ozanam, Inc. Ozanam is a 50-year organization in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It serves inner city youth through academic, cultural enrichment and exchanges, and athletics. Ozanam continues making a difference in the lives of the youth served. Speaking of serving, joining me today for the conversation of how leadership has shaped change, and challenge growth in women in sports is Tammy Holman, an NCAA collegiate women's basketball official. Phyllis Jones, head girls basketball coach, Westinghouse High School. Amy Schuneman, executive director, Western Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic League, or the WPIAL. Shauna Brown, associate commissioner of Conference USA. And rounding out our panel is Edna Campbell, former WNBA player and University of Texas graduate. Ladies, welcome to the National 35th Annual Girls and Women in Sports Day, and thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Karen.
Good, glad to have everyone here. So sit back and have fun. Okay, so before we get started, I want to welcome also a few guests that are here with us and those that are joining us on YouTube, that if you have any questions during our conversation, please write it in the chat. We'll be happy to do our best for, well, my powerhouse panelists will do their best to answer those questions. So at this time, I'm going to dribble the ball backwards and have Tammy Holman reintroduce ourselves and tell us about herself. Tammy?
Sure. Thank you, Karen. I want to really thank you for inviting me to this panel. It's very rewarding and a great honor to symbolize the NCAA and women's Title IX. Well, my name is Tammy Holman. I'm originally from Pittsburgh. I currently live in the DMV area, which is in Maryland. And what I've been doing, besides my basketball career, I'm currently a NCAA women's basketball official, and I also have a full-time job as well. But that's what I'm currently doing since we're prime in our season at this point.
Tammy, thank you. Welcome again. Coach Jones.
Oh, hello, I'm Phyllis Jones. I grew up in Pittsburgh, went through the Pittsburgh Public School District, graduated from the University of Pittsburgh, and I've been at Westinghouse since 1987. I've been coaching, head coach since 1990. Yes, we did play against Edna.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's been a while, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Thank you. Amy.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Hall.
Take yourself off mute.
Oh, I can hear.
Go ahead.
I also am a Pittsburgh native. I grew up in the borough of Plum and was a high school athlete and collegiate athlete at Robert Morris in both soccer and indoor and outdoor track. I continued my athletic career as an athletic director for 16 years in various high schools in the Pittsburgh region, and recently took over as executive director here in the WPIL last summer. But prior to that, I was the associate executive director the year before. So again, sports has been a big part of my life and career, and looking forward to today's discussion.
Thank you. Shauna?
Hello, everyone. I am from Mississippi, so outsider so far. Grew up in the South. Went to University of Southern Mississippi for undergrad, St. Thomas University down in Miami, Florida for grad school. That while I was in grad school, I spent some time working for the Miami Dolphins and wanted to get back into college athletics. So that's when I made my journey finally north and started at the Patriot League, worked there as an intern and worked in championships and compliance, moved to the Mid-American Conference and was able to oversee sports and transition out of compliance with them, and hosted the NCAA Women's Basketball Final Four, the Women's Final Four in Cleveland in 2007, and moved after that event to the NCAA staff and championships. After working at the NCAA, I went to the America East Conference office and served as interim commissioner, deputy commissioner, and then transitioned to Conference USA, where I'm the associate commissioner for business affairs, now here in Dallas.
Nice, thank you. Edna.
All right. Karen, thank you for having me here. I mean, it really is an honor and a pleasure to reconnect with my Pittsburgh roots and to be here and to celebrate something so significant, you know, in all of our lives. But I graduated from Alderdice High School in Pittsburgh, went off and graduated from University of Texas, played overseas for a number of years, had my WNBA career, and ended up going back to school to become a nurse. And I live in Sacramento, California. I get to Pittsburgh ever so often, but it really is good to see some old faces, reconnect, and share in this conversation. So thank you.
So once again, welcome to you, ladies. It is my honor, and I'm so humbled to have you all join me in a special day, because this celebration is happening nationwide. This is a big deal. It's 35 years, right? So if you minus your age, were you here or were you just coming to here? So who knows? But at any rate, so what is National Girls and Women in Sports Day, right? And for the acronym is NGWSD. Right. So if you hear that acronym today, that's National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Well, we know it as an annual celebration to observe and honor the athletic achievements of women and girls in sports and in fitness, the participation of girls and women in sports. So this day is huge for all of us and women and girls all over the country, those that have been trailblazers, those of us during our journey, and those the path in which we will blaze for those coming after us. So there's a quote by Wilma Rudolph that I want to lead off with. And the quote reads, "The potential for greatness lives in each one of us. The potential for greatness lives in each one of us." So that is such a strong quote as we reference girls and women in sports, right? So I want to ask, as we look within ourselves in regards to our own potential and greatness that lives in each one of us, how has sports influenced your greatness, right? How has sports influenced your greatness? Take it away, no specific order.
First, you know, I believe that sports is just foundational to my personal growth and development as an athlete, as a person. And because of sports, I was able to flourish and be able to grow into and reach a lot of my potentials. Sports gave me the opportunity to interact with different people. Sports challenged me. And because of those challenges, you have to rise above who you think you are or what you believe yourself to be. And it stretches you. It gets you out of, you know, your comfort zone and allows you to become something more and bigger and possibly better than you even thought you could be. So that is what I believe sports to be in my life. And that's how it has inspired my greatness.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
For me, it has brought in so much. It is that family, that secondary family. I mean, that's so important at a young age, and you know, playing basketball in the Ozanam League. You meet so many people, and over the years, you notice how they stay attached to you, and then you go on to different levels, and you continue to, that family continues to grow. And I think that connection with sports for me, and just always having that family bond. I come from a big family, but just to have so many other family members in sports, it has been a tremendous asset for me.
Agreed.
I'll take it. Different journey there, as sports was my passion. So, you know, to go into a professional field that was, I'll say, paved by sports is what I was interested in. I wasn't interested in other things. So, you know, as far as my career is concerned, it was always driven by sports. So I feel that as an avenue for whether it be young men or young women who maybe not be interested in other aspects of professions, that this gives them an opportunity to continue doing something they love as a profession.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll kind of jump on there too. And say that, you know, growing up, I always played basketball, track. We were not allowed to go home after school. You had to find something else to do. You were not allowed to be idle at any point in time, because idle minds lead to trouble for kids in a lot of ways, and that was not going to happen in our household. And playing sports, running track, basketball, all growing up, I was not talented enough to continue on to be a college student athlete, but I knew I still wanted to be involved with sport, and that inspired me to go down the road of getting a degree in sport administration and continuing to work in sports as a career, which has evolved over the years as I've figured out what that meant, because going into it, you don't really know what working in sports means or looks like, but it's definitely provided an avenue to sit in a lot of rooms and really be around some folks that are quoted and referenced as great people, and to learn from them hands-on. So I appreciate what sports has been able to feed into me from, first grade all the way into where I sit today.
Thank you. So the journey, we're hearing your journey, right? And in the midst of it, you all talked about passion. You talked about evolving, family, right? It bringing out your own greatness. Okay. So think back, because I want to move into the socialization of girls, right? Then and now. So is it different today in terms of how we were socialized as girls, and then how girls today are being socialized? That's a broad question. I get it, right? But today is that type of day. So how would you respond to that? The socialization of girls.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's wonderful because all of you have such your hands on girls today. We have the officials, we have the executive, the commissioner, the former player, and the coach, right? So you can, I feel like I'm in a candy store of greatness with all this variety of athletics around me, right? So how about the socialization of girls from where you sit in your position?
I can say from a league standpoint, whether it's socialization and or just perception and acceptance, that we try to tailor our female sports in similar fashions as the male sports. What we do for one, we do for the other. How we provide for and everything is as equal as we can make it. And I think that's important, and recognizing its importance. So it's not, Coach, as you probably experienced whenever you were younger, is not a segregation or separation of girls over here and boys over there. It's, everybody's kind of on that same playing field. And I know from my own experience, high school, that the sports were not equally viewed or considered. And so that has certainly advanced. And again, I was not born whenever this started. So for those of you who think that I'm that young, I'm not. But, the pole vault was an event that was, not able to participate in. And that was one thing that I did, and it became finally a sport. And I went on to do it at the collegiate level. But, that happened within my lifetime. So we're not talking, that long ago that things, have developed and become better for women across the country and across the world.
Thank you.
I'm just going to piggyback off of that and say that the socialization of young girls through sports is way more received, encouraged right now. You see a lot of young girls out there in the midst of soccer fields with little boys on basketball courts, and it's encouraged because at certain points in our lives and in our development, boys are faster and stronger. So if you're able to get out there and compete with the younger guys, then you know that you're probably going to perform at a higher level as a young girl. But just to have the support of parents and peers to get out and compete with boys in predominantly male sports, I think is so healthy for young women, and it gives them the confidence to be able to pursue whatever sports they have a passion for and have a desire to compete in.
And then let me ask you, you bring up received more than back then. Do you think the involvement of professional women's leagues through exposure has increased that socialization of it being more acceptable?
Oh, without a doubt, because it's a profession now. It's not just some intramural sport, or let me back that up. It's just not just a high school sport or some AAU team or intramural sport. It's a profession, and it's a respected profession, right? You see Diana Taurasi or Maya Moore, you see these amazing women out there performing, excelling, and being applauded and praised. So, I think that lends to a young athlete in whatever arena, to want to aspire to that type of greatness.
So what you can see, you can now be.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's a part of that I also find the influence of female coaches on male youth sports. So my sister serves as a coach to my nephew's soccer team, or as assistant coach to his soccer team. When those boys grow up and they have had women in front of them being leaders of a team, or being a coach, that's going to start to influence what society looks like too, because it's no longer foreign to have a woman as a leader and growing you and encouraging you and making you strong outside of your home.
And I
Great
think
point.
that takes it even further, because now you're seeing more women or females going into the male sports on the collegiate level as well as professional. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So I want you to think about it, because sports and girls and women, it's all over, right, all around us, right? So we had a change in the executive branch, presidency. So you follow along because there have been so many executive orders signed, right? So if you don't know, President Biden, he recently signed the executive order that allows boys to play on girls' teams. Right. And we're not going to get too hard in it because it talks about transgender and the whole bit. But just the fact that the president of these United States, he signed an executive order for boys to play on girls' teams, but we've never heard of the reverse. Your thought on that? Your thoughts? I know I came fully loaded. You had no idea how excited I was.
That's pretty interesting, because we're just now, getting our way into females into sports, and to have that now part of this whole new era per se. That's a big change, and it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows.
Yes.
We're trying to get used to now the young woman at that play football.
Right.
Okay. And as officials, we're now just getting on the court with men. We have one that I know of, a female on the men's side in collegiate basketball, officiating the NFL. But to see it reverse, and as far as an male athlete into a women's sport, that's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be interesting.
But it has to be accepted.
Well, we had back in the day, I would say in the late 90s, we had 3 girls that participated on our football team, but their only position was the kicker. They were the kicker. Okay, and not hitting or anything like that, but yes, we did.
How big was that viewed at the high school at Westinghouse? That even though they were kickers, because that's a great position. So how was that viewed within the high school?
At first, the eyebrows were down, but then after the girls, proved themselves, so to speak, then they were well received.
Okay.
You know what? I just want to go back and chime in on something that Coach Jones said. And, because I've had some conversations regarding women moving into these positions on the men's side, right? And, I applaud that. I applaud the respect, the recognition, the accomplishment. But, the flip side of that is the problem that I have with it, right? Is that we're taking these jewels, we're taking these gems, these well-accomplished women who have or could possibly have a significant impact on young girls, and we're removing them, and we're taking them and we're giving them value somewhere else when they could have tremendous impact on young women and their minds and their growth and their development. If you continue to take that talent pool away from the women's side, and you put it in place value somewhere else, what are you leaving the women's side with, right? Like this is just general conversation, can we keep a little bit of that talent for our young women so that they can, touch those lives, grow those lives, inspire that growth and development. I get that, everybody wants that, you're esteemed a little bit more when you get to the men's side and all that, but there is tremendous value on the women's side.
Anyone want to chime in on that?
Well, and I think they can do both. They can give
Agree.
to both the young girls and also still allow us, the girls and women, to know that they can still move on to the other side as well.
So
I agree.
I'm going to challenge you at night, and we're not going to stay here long, but this is a great conversation, right? Because you have to get in and look at the hiring processes, right? So that is a big factor in why some women, they can't give you the opportunity on the women's side, and we've moved to where there's a possibility on the men's side, they are going where they're being hired, right? So the hiring practices is a huge factor in how we are losing some women to the men's side. So I totally get it, totally agree with what you said. But when I'm looking at girls and women in sports, that hiring practice is definitely a factor. Shauna, I saw you nodding your head.
Yes, and I also just want to touch on, let's talk about economics and finance with this too. So at one point, there were women coached women's sports because that was the natural progression of things, or that's where women fit. And then as salaries increased, then all of a sudden it was attractive to men to start coaching women's sports and to being part of that. And still we know on a lot of campuses, the reality is the men's sports, and especially if you're talking about the high profile sports of men's basketball, football, ice hockey in a lot of regions, those are the revenue generating sports that do help propel the athletics department and continue to fund in a variety of different ways. But those coaches still also get paid more. And so if a woman can now be a coach and receive the salary that's being offered in some of those other areas, there's some financial components that's changing the game as well.
Yeah.
Amy, what about within the WPIL? Do you all track anything as far as the hiring process and how many men are coaching girls sports versus how many women are coaching male sports? Anything like that happening?
No, we don't have a physical count on who does what. Obviously, sometimes it's who can coach, and it's just a left, unfortunately. And that's something that, challenges a lot of athletic departments every year is, trying to find people and the right people. Obviously, we would all want the best and the best mentors and everything else. And unfortunately, those people just aren't always available to coach from, 2 to 5 or, in the evenings. They have families. I mean, there's so many variables that don't allow good coaches to coach, so to speak. So to answer your specific question, no, we don't have data on that. I do know, obviously, there are both genders coaching women's sports, a lot of men coaching women's, and a lot of women coaching women's sports. You don't see quite as much of women coaching the men's sports, but it's out there. Actually, I had hired a female football coach at North Hills when I was there. She's still there. So again, trying to break those barriers and allow women to get in where they would like to help and be a productive member of that coaching staff. So again, to answer your question, I don't have specific data, but they're both out there. And again, sometimes it comes down to who's available as opposed to who you want to.
Got it. Thank you. So I'm going to launch a poll because we talked about breaking barriers, and there was a specific federal law that put us all in much better position today, right? And you can see it on your screen. So the question asked, what year did Title IX become a federal law? All right, so everyone involved in Zoom right now with us, please feel free to submit your answer, and let's see how smart we are as women in sports and those of us that are on the line with us. So when you're, click your answer and then just hit submit. Tammy scratching her head, is it not tough? All right. Okay. So when when our producer Eric, he will launch the results and see how well we did. So we'll give a few more minutes to see how we all did. But this Title IX, there's so many layers to Title IX. Oh, look at this. Fantastic. All right. Everyone knew this answer. This is great. And this is huge because we have some men that are listening on our Zoom with us. So it's great to know that everyone understands that Title IX became a federal law in 1972. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're gonna hold on to Title IX because we're gonna come back to that. But I want to move into the area of leadership, and we touched on it a little bit, but let's go a little further, right? And I asked the question in my introduction. I said, how has leadership shaped, changed, and challenged girls and women in sports, right? And first off, how do you define leadership, right? And none of us here will define it the same way. So do your best with this and take it away. How has leadership changed, challenged, and shaped girls and women in sports, right? So I'll start, as a prepster, or I'll go way back to elementary or grade school, as I called it. So I had a woman who was my PE teacher, and she became my first coach around formal girls basketball camp. So in my first formal setting, I seen all women. Okay, so that was really good for me to see. But when I went home to work on and hone my skills, I was with all men. So it was like back and forth for me. So all it taught me was that we all play. That's all I knew, right? We all played because I seen women and girls like me, and then I see boys playing. And it was the same ball, right? The ball didn't change because I was a girl and he was a guy. It's changed today, but that's a different story, right? So that was how leadership changed my young thinking about sports.
So I'm gonna go with, again, the executive side of things and talk to it, speak to it as an adult. Growing up with sports, I always knew that it was an option. I mean, you mentioned having your first coach, PE teacher. That is somewhat traditional. I experienced the same things, but when I got ready to be in the profession of working in sports, I remember sitting at the University of Southern Mississippi working for the football department, and I asked the director of football ops then, Coach Coleman, and said, "Coach, how do I get this job? Because I like working for you. I love being here in the ops for football." And he said, "Oh, Shauna, they only give this job to old retired football coaches like me. You can't do it." And so that was the thing that made me go, okay, well, if I can't have this position, then I'll be an athletics director that hires you. Okay, that was my immediate, okay, well, then we'll go a step above, because I didn't even know if that was an option, but that was the way I decided it was going to be. And then once I had the opportunity to work at a conference office, one, I realized being on a campus and being an athletic director was not necessarily the goal that I was going to go for, but I like conference office settings. And my first commissioner at the Patriot League was female. Carolyn Schlee-Feminis. She had been there for a number of years. And so having her automatically let me know, okay, this is possible. For the number or lack thereof number of female commissioners that there are around, and specifically in Division I, although it's increasing more and more each year, I've worked for 3 female commissioners now.
Wow.
So Amy Huchthausen at America East, and Julie McLeod now at Conference USA. So it has always been something that's been said, you can do this. Okay. Now, sometimes there's only been one Division I Black female named a commissioner at some point. So hopefully those numbers start to increase too. But seeing it, and you referenced it before, seeing it lets you know that you can do it. Although I think just by the time I had already gotten to college, it was already instilled in me that you can be a leader. you can manage this, and you can't let anybody put you in a box. And I think that developed over time and working in sports and failing, but having to pull back together and step up and continue to work as a team. So it's there, but I think it hits at the highest levels too, where we need to still continue to show the leadership opportunities.
Well stated. Anyone else?
I have
go ahead. Go ahead, please. Yes.
Again, this could encapsulate so many different things, and I know you probably have, it doesn't answer your specific question, but again, in regards to leadership, I think people need a model, not a motto. And so they need somebody to follow, not something just to, follow your words and try to be that example. And, it comes with earning that respect and understanding others and knowing where they're coming from. And I think as females, we've all gone through so much that we understand what people have gone through, right? Because we've gone through a lot of it individually. But one of the biggest things I think and applicable as far as female leader, and maybe the women on this call can chime in, is I feel like sometimes we feel like, we can't please everybody, but that's something that's part of we're trying to please too many people. We just need to make decisions and understand that we're making them for the right reasons, that a lot of male leaders maybe don't take that into consideration as much as female leadership. So, you have to make the decisions and move forward. So not everyone's going to like you. In fact, 75% probably will disagree with your decision in some way. So, just accepting that fact and being able to make those decisions anyway is an important part of leadership.
Thank you. Okay, so go ahead, please go.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, throughout my entire basketball career, 90% of my, let me say 80% of my coaches were female. And, I really didn't even think about it. I always anticipated, because it started from an early age, and then, it just continued on to college and even on the professional ranks. Most of my coaches were women. And the first time I had a male coach, it was a little bit different. And I'm going to go ahead and say that, Amy, I can totally understand something that you just said when you said, maybe, males, this won't affect males as much. But I found that having that first male coach, I noticed a stark difference in, I'm going to say, the emotional climate of our teams, right? Things that were, just became very just rational, cut and dry. It's this or that. And there was nothing attached to it. And I think having that first male coach gave me a little bit of insight, and it instilled balance in me as an athlete in how to operate and interact. Because, when you get too many women in a room, it's a whole different dynamic. Even in nursing, we are thankful when we get a male nurse, just for a different energy, right? And so, but I believe that my young days and that having that leadership, it was inspirational. It was a maternal type of thing for me, having a female leader that led our teams, that molded us, that guided us, that inspired us. So that's how I would say that, the coaching leadership in my early days played a role in my development and my accomplishments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so think about the women leaders that, on your journey, a player, coach, administrator, who are some of the leaders that you've seen nationally? Like, these were the names of those leaders that everyone knew. Didn't matter what sport, didn't matter what position, but you knew. And I'll just throw like a Vivian Stringer. Like, that was a woman leader that in my young career as a coach, like, that was always a name that came up. Like a Marion Washington, that was another name that always kept coming up. And so I would pay attention to when I seen the name and the quote in the paper or the video on the TV, like, what were they saying? Because they really were paving our way, right? They were paving and being trailblazers for us. So can you share some other leaders, women leaders, that you remember that they were in the thrust, and whether they wanted to be or not, they were thrusted into that national leadership role for women and girls in sports?
I would definitely have to say Pat Summit. Yeah, I wanted to pattern a lot of my stuff off of her, how she ran her teams and so forth, her leadership. So yeah, I would use Pat Summit.
So let's go a little further with Pat Summit, because that's a name that really truly resonates. So Coach Jones and the panel, what was it, some specifics about Pat Summit's leadership that you wanted to emulate as a person and in your coaching style? I'll start with you, Coach Jones.
The respect that she got from her players, how they respected her. And she didn't have to go about it in a nasty way or anything. She earned that respect, and I appreciated that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and echoing that with Pat, I think with my opportunities to serve in the capacity of a tournament director for an NCAA women's basketball regional, and then at the Final Four that Pat participated in, I sat in on those practices and watched that engagement she had with her student athletes, and she was tough, but you knew that she cared about those players and her staff. And so it was really something special to be around and be a part of. And so whenever I see the quotes or see the We Back Pat, I follow it on Instagram, and you see a lot of the work that's still being done in her name. If you were around it, you understand. And even if you're just now being introduced to that legacy, you understand the type of leader she really was.
Man, without a doubt. I was recruited by Pat, and Coach Jones, you took the words right out of my mouth, because, being a professional basketball player and playing on the highest level collegiate graduate from the University of Texas, we competed against Tennessee, right? Pat sat in my living room. She recruited me. And when you think about, like you said, just the respect that she has from her players, I'm gonna reiterate some of the things that we're saying. Yes, Pat was tough. She was hard-nosed. But here's the thing. The bottom line is you cannot be that hard-nosed, and you cannot drive your players to the degree that she drives her players without her players knowing that she genuinely and truly cared about her. I mean, to this day, people that I played with, oh my goodness, I mean, the stories, we lost the game. We got back from the game. We got in the gym. We had to practice. We practiced until we threw up. I mean, it was, those types of stories. But you know what? They're the first ones to say that, I love my coach. And that to me is special. That's very unique, that you can, again, have that toughness, but also that much love and unity. It's admirable. It's unique. And that's why she is who she is.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you ladies. With Pat, she's the first name that came to my mind as well. But my college coach, Doris Black, out of small, Dayton, Ohio, I can honestly say she instilled that leadership in me. I mean, she found things in me that I didn't even know. And so with that in mind, that made me think, hey, this is a great leader. I want to implement, just emulate what she has done for me, for other young girls, women, as I, embark on different careers. I played basketball. No one knew I was going to be a basketball official, but I can say males encouraged me to be an official, but that leadership from my college coach, and it's instilled to me to this day. She's done tremendous and instilled so much values that I can't thank her, and it's a lot like what Pat did. And I seen that in her, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it's helped me grown a lot over the years.
So how do we pay that forward? How do we pass the torch? Because we are now sitting in where they were grooming us to be. So now we have responsibility to pay it forward. So passing the torch, how do we do that? How do we pass the torch? And the younger generation, they're not waiting for us, right? The Simone Biles, she didn't wait for anyone. She just popped up. The Monet Davis, where'd she come from? But believe us, right? Because someone's always behind them. So ladies, how can we as professionals in our various occupations pave the way and pass the torch for girls in sports?
So administratively, there is Alfreda Goff. Alfreda Goff is a name that as soon as I got to the conference office level, a lot of the men that I was working with were like, we got to connect you with Alfreda, because she was the one that they knew, had been around. And D. Todd was at the ACC. So both of those two names kept popping up as women that I needed to be introduced to by the men that were in administration in my life.
Right.
And I worked really closely with Alfreda in early 2000s and still with the Women's Leadership Symposium. And that was a regional symposium that was put on to help women continue to grow and get professional development in a way that if their organization wasn't sending them across country to some of the major conferences in which professional development was being gained. And starting to work with Alfreda with that in, I don't know, maybe 2003, 2004 on, let me know that I need to still make a way for women to get opportunities to grow and get exposure. And so even now today, if there's an ask and I can fit it in on something like this program, I'm going to do it because it's important. For anyone that I come in contact with, I always try to, in this career, even outside of it, I always try to figure out, well, what do you want? How can I help you in any way continue to add building blocks to your, to your profile? And so I think that's in everything. Sometimes it's really intentional and I come with a game plan, and other times I just find that it's natural because it's been ingrained in me to make sure you're bringing along the next generation and trying to make sure that everybody is, if there's an opportunity for someone to attend Women Leaders in College Sports Convention, I call it just the Sean Brown Scholarship. There's nothing formal to it at all. But if I'm talking to someone, a young woman who's coming out of college and looking to get in, it's just like, I don't know if I can do that. Yes, you can. And we're going to find a way. And so I may fund it. I may call on some other administrators. Like, we need to help this person grow. And we're very intentional about making sure we're still filling the pipeline, because there's more opportunities to come, and we need to make sure that women are going to be there and not be easily dismissed or like they don't have what it takes or people don't know you. I'm going to expose you to anybody that I can expose you to, and you can prove yourself from there.
Thank you.
Nice.
Pass the torch. One more person on passing that torch. How are you going to pass the torch? We all have that responsibility. So someone passed the torch by helping us. How are we going to pay it forward now in our own profession of where we sit?
Well, one thing I can say is I have a lot of former players that have come back to my program, and several of them were either high school coaches, middle school coaches, or college coaches. And I feel proud and happy about that, because they come back and they ask for, advice and so forth. And one thing I'd have to say too also is I have to give props to my husband. He's a WVU sports management professor. And along the way, we've been married for 37 years. He has encouraged me to get involved in all the women in sports things and so forth. And if it wasn't for him, for some of the things, just giving me that encouragement, I wouldn't have been, in some of the things that I've been in, and giving that confidence. And I appreciate that really a whole lot. And that's coming from a male, to a female with a family, saying, go ahead and do your thing. He said, I'll watch the girls because I know you're doing something special for these other young ladies out there. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So each of you and all of us, we've had our challenges in our own careers. Pick one of the careers you want, because we've all been something before we got to where we are, right? How did you overcome that challenge? And you can specify the challenge or just tell us how you overcame it. How did you overcome a challenge being a woman, being a girl, and then a woman in sports at any degree?
Well, I tell you what,
I would-
when I was coaching on the high school level, coaching on the high school level, when I first came into Westinghouse, the men, I had to fight the men coaches for the time on the court and so forth. And by the time I got done doing what I needed to do, they were like, "I'd never met a female like you before." And so I had to demand that time. I had to demand whatever the guys were getting, I wanted the girls to get as well, you know. So I know I overcame a lot by putting my foot down and not letting them run over me.
Amy?
I was just going to say, as far as, giving respect and working hard, and that's something that anyone would have to do to get an advancement, but women especially, of just being the best in the room and doing your homework and trying to always be one step ahead of everybody else will help those women to succeed and get to the positions that, as you mentioned, all of us are sitting in today.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go with some relationships and building the network. You know, there's a lot that we have to have in self-motivation and perseverance that drives us forward. There's something internally that makes you go, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to keep pushing because either I know it's right or, you know, I want to make a difference. But in that, it's building the relationships around you. And that comes, you know, men, women, coaches, administrators. Once people see who you are and your vision or your mission and your quality and your passion, you get people to buy into that and they'll support you and help you knock down some of those barriers too. You know, it may be a little difficult to get in the room, but once you're in the room, if you have the opportunity to win it over or somebody else there to help be your ally or champion for whatever cause it is you're trying to fight for, that goes a long way too.
Thank you.
So I would have to echo some of those things also. I think that, you know, in overcoming any adversity, you know, there has to be an intrinsic desire, like just some passion that is just inherent in who we are for the goal that we are striving for. You know, each and every one of us, we are in a position right now because that's something that we really wanted. And we were able to align ourselves with people who supported us. Because I'm gonna tell you something, there is nothing like passion. And when you see people with passion and a fire for something that they want, it's a magnet for support. It's a magnet for people to elevate you and connect you and allow you to be in certain conversations to get you to where you want to be. So I believe that in and of itself is foundational to overcoming any degree of adversity in most realms of our lives.
Thank you. So I want to move back to a poll, right? We talked about the adversity, overcoming it, the respect, the drive, okay? So with Title IX, we have to know what Title IX allows us. Like, what does it mean to stand behind Title IX? Obviously, we know there's gender equity too. So how do you define Title IX? So is Title IX, it ensures equal opportunity? Like, read the definition and choose what you think Title IX is defined as, right? And we need to live by, as most institutions, they have to live by Title IX, right? That's that compliance and Title IX coordinator on campuses that hold institutions to the carpet, and maybe even at the high school level. So let's, once that poll is complete, we'll see how we all fared in understanding what Title IX is. And we're just literally scratching the surface. I mean, we're just like small fingertips scratching it because the layers are so deep and there are multiple layers of Title IX, gender equity, right? The whole diversity, inclusion, and equity. There's so much to the girls and women in sports. So are we completed with the poll? Let's see how we did on the results of the polling. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Thank you for that. Right. So again, the definitions before us, there's more layers. So that's just a warm up. All right. A little taste to Title IX. All right. So we're getting close to our time. All right. But it's important that we talk about, if you are sitting where you are, what would you say to a girl that comes up to you and says, you know what, I have this desire to play sports, or even if it's outside of maybe the game, but maybe an administrator, what would you say to that 9, 8, 13-year-old, right? And maybe that was you back then. All right, so I want to hear from everyone. What would your conversation sound like to a young girl coming up to you about athletics?
So at Conference USA, we put on an event called Shooting for the Stars last year around our basketball tournament. And the target audience was girls, I think 9 to 18 to come in. We had 100 of them come in and invited a few different folks from around the Dallas area to speak to them. And in that, the room was full of, again, young ladies of all ages, a basketball team, seniors, a basketball team, to one younger woman in particular. She was 10 years old and playing softball. And her father had brought her, and she was just sitting there and trying to figure out, okay, how do I don't know if I can talk to other people. It was a lot of basketball players in the room, and here she was playing softball. So it was a little, she was out of her comfort zone in that room. And one of the things I told her is like, this is what sports is going to do to make you great. Is right now you're out of your comfort zone, but all of these women, all of these girls in this room right now feel out of their comfort zone. You may think that everybody's here and they seem to know a couple other people. So let me be with you right here and hold your hand and walk through. And her dad, just said, go ahead, take it. And we went around, and before the program was over, she had met other girls and was telling them about her sport and how the sport of softball works, because she was talking to a couple of girls that had never played it before. And so it was an opportunity for me to say, watch where sports will take you. Watch how this introduction will allow you to get into different spaces. And I think when we first started, I wasn't planning on connecting the dots here, but when we first started this conversation, I said sports has allowed me to be in different rooms and be around people that I probably never would have to get influenced by. And that's what I left her with on that day. And so I would say it's difficult. Some things in life are always going to be, whether it's sports related or not, but allow what you can learn through sport to guide you, in your life decisions. And so that's the way I've utilized some of the lessons in sport. And that's one of the things I would leave with young girls.
Great.
I would encourage a young person to engage in the sport of their choosing as much as they possibly can, to seek out opportunities, to seek out whether it's a practice person, someone who will rebound for them, like myself. I mean, I was playing basketball everywhere. I mean, I put up hoops in the house. I did things, I was dribbling in the house, and I would just encourage them to pour themselves into their sport and to give it everything that they have. Because, in the end, you don't want to feel like you sold yourself short on something that you truly have a love for. And I think that would be my biggest bit of advice that I would impart to a young person.
Okay, great.
I think for me, just, I remember just trying to encourage maybe a young girl, maybe a young boy to play a sport. But now we realize that it's more than that, like Shauna's profession. Hey, you love the sport of basketball? I can't play. Guess what? Maybe you could be a manager. Maybe you can be a statistician. But, give them other opportunities if they're not that athletic kid. But encourage them, hey, try to do this with the team, be a part of the team, and then expand on how it can make you grow as an individual, the camaraderie, and you're still part of that team. You may not be that best athlete or not even an athlete, but you may be a part of that team in this aspect. But let them know there are other opportunities out there.
Go ahead, Phyllis, did you want to talk, or I can chime in?
Go ahead. I'll come after you.
All right. I think that the point of encouragement is certainly there. Just a few little components in addition to that, again, is Shauna said, is being that personal relationship to them. If they can make a connection with you and continue to talk to you throughout their challenges, and letting them know that you're there to support them or talk with them along their path, and we've all faced challenges. One of the things that I would instill in those young folks that we talk to in trying to develop leaders in any field, so to speak, is, develop your values and your morals and stick to them, and to create who it is you want to be and be that person, be it with confidence. So I think those are a couple of just nuggets that I would try to relay to those young folks, any level, any field, in trying to make it, their profession.
And my main thing is listening to everyone. I would agree with what everybody said. And the big word for me is encouragement, encouraging everyone.
Okay. Well, I mean, those really are your call to actions, right? So you just really stated your call to action as you move forward in your greatness. And as we move forward to the end of this hour that just went by so fast, I want to leave us with a quote, right? So this quote sort of ties everything together about change, challenges, and where we're going. And it says, when we as a nation put our minds to something, when we truly choose to care about something, change always happens, right? And we know that Megan Rapinoe and her championship softball teams, they made change. They made change on a national scale. And that's our call to action in the position that we now sit, and the position that later on we will move into. So the encouraging, the respect, I always look at it, girls and women in sports, as this, as we live in our greatness, it's the escalator ride up. Okay, it's always the escalator ride up. You're never going backwards, right? You'll fall, but if you fall, you get up and continue to go upward. So I'm going to thank this panel, which is tremendous. I love this panel. You all came from all different nuggets of your own greatness, and you shared out and you gave us your call to action on how you're going to move into making the next 35 years better than these 35 years for girls and women in sports. That is now our responsibility. So thank you. Continue living in your greatness and inspire and influence, because you know what? That's what leaders are. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. Have a good afternoon and enjoy.
You as well.